very wet Monza indeed, a track which first opened in 1922. We've got 15 minutes of qualifying and then a 55-minute race with a mandatory pit stop included for the 43 drivers who have entered to compete in today's running. I'm Tom Cairns in the commentary position. Alongside me is Dan, who will be with me for the next hour and a bit. Good evening, sir. How are you doing?
Yeah, hi Tom. Yeah, it's been a long while since I've been on the JP Broadcasting YouTube channel. It's good to be back, and well, what a championship to be back with. We're in a bit late. We are in qualifying already. 15 minutes, 3 laps in the rain.
Yeah, and a different challenge compared to maybe how they would do it in the dry, which means braking and stopping distances will be much greater. So it'll be even more challenging for the drivers as they head out onto the racetrack for qualifying, which has already begun. They've had some time during the practice session to acclimatise to the conditions. And, well, I think it's safe to say as we watch the number 42 on circuit, who's just begun his first timed lap, that will be Spencer on circuit, who is racing in the AM class in the Ferrari there. So he'll be hoping to get as much mileage.
It's gone a bit deep there, so that's going to invalidate his lap time. He's going to have to go again. And remember, he only has 3 of them.
Yeah, indeed. And he's going through Lesmo corner now as he heads through. And this is Lesmo 1 that he's entering. Just understanding where the lines are to take and when he needs to brake. You can see a little twitch on the exit of Lesmo 1. And so he is heading through Lesmo 2 and all the way up the hill in a moment or so time. And what are you looking out for in today's showing, Dan? Because these drivers have a fair understanding of this Monza circuit in the wet. How much do you think practice has played a role in how they are preparing themselves today? Because some will have had more practice than others.
Yeah, I think they had 2 hours even in this session or in this server to practice in the rain, in these conditions, in these track conditions. What I'm looking most forward to is especially turn 1. We always know, Tom, in the dry, Monza turn 1 is always a spectacle. I'm looking forward to actually, for the first time, see that happen in the rain. Hopefully everyone will get through there cleanly. But yeah, I mean, we have 40 plus drivers here this evening. So getting through that turn 1 and 2 chicane is going to be tricky, especially in the rain.
Yeah, indeed. And we've got drivers who have posted some times. Cameron Frederick in the 302 Porsche has gone to the top for now, at least, with a 2-minute 8.3, followed by Purser in P2 in the 127 BMW. It was a 2-minute 9.7 he just posted. And then in third place in the AM class, we have got Bonte, who is racing for the Triad Motorsports team, although he's just been displaced actually by Ryan Byers in the 059 McLaren. But we've got Cole Modric has gone to the top with a 2-minute 7.2, over a second quicker, or just over a second quicker ahead of Cameron Frederick. Bear in mind, they are in different classes to each other. And we are looking at the driver who's currently in 6th position, that is Bonte. And he'll be looking to improve on his time from before. He's going to go for another run. I think as the track is picking up with more rubber being laid down, normally in dry conditions, they would have just the one set of tyres for this session, and then that's it. Whatever time they posted will be their time for whatever grid position they start in. But in wet conditions, I think it's going to be a different factor, because the more rubber is being laid down, the quicker the times are going to get.
Yeah, and also obviously not in qualifying now, because they're all out on track themselves. They all have the track to themselves. It's lone qualifying. But in the race, the cars will circulate on the track as they do during a race, right, Tom? And they will clear out the water as well. We have 40 plus cars, so that's going to go quite quickly. We're used to seeing a big field like this. I don't know, have we had rain before this season? I'm not quite sure.
I wouldn't be able to tell you off the top of my head, but either way, with these cars, given the amount of weight they carry, I'd have thought they'd have done some practice beforehand on other racetracks. We've got drivers heading over the line. We've got Bonte who's heading over the line to see how he is getting on. And this lap time he's going to post will be an improvement. He goes up to 5th place overall with that effort. We've got Risley on, who's just done a lap as well. We are now focusing on, just looking on the timing, so who we'll focus on. This is Josh Herring, who's going over the lines P2 at the moment for the BWE Racing team. A time of 2 minutes 5.9, so you can definitely tell that the track is picking up, but is the Pro-Am driver of Cameron Frederick, who's at the top. Not for long, though, because Cole Modric has displaced him by a couple of tenths. He goes to the top of the timing sheets, a provisional pole position for him, whilst we watch the 2:15 of Josh Herring spin at the Rettifilia chicane. And you can definitely see that there are more drivers crossing over the line. We've still got another 20 drivers also yet to post their first lap times of the session. There is Supavela going over the line for P13. So that is a respectable lap time, but I'm sure there's more lap time in there than what we've seen so far.
Oh, Bowen jumps to the top, 6/10 ahead of Modric. My goodness, that's a lap and a half. 2:05.0 we're at the moment. That's already 3 seconds quicker than we went in practice. It was extremely wet in the practice beforehand. And, well, you can see the difference. Drivers much more confident, I think, now on throttle. Picking up that throttle is so difficult out of these slow corners, isn't it, in these heavy cars?
Indeed, and bearing in mind the cars are fitted with wheel arches, so the amount of spray being kicked up won't be as much as what you would find in a single-seater machine. So I don't think visibility is going to be too much of an issue. It's not raining too hard out on the circuit. It's just more of the amount of spray that's being kicked up. We've just seen Mikey Rogers go over the line, 4th fastest for him for the 4X Racing Squad. A time of 2 minutes 5.8. 8 tenths away from the fastest lap time, which Mitchell Bowen currently owns. But don't be at all surprised to see the track picking up. Cameron Frederick demonstrating that with a 2 minutes 4.3, nearly 7 tenths faster than what Mitchell Bowen had previously posted. Bearing in mind, Frederick is in a Pro-Am, so we expect the times to pick up even more as the clock continues to tick down here at Monza. Spencer's gone over the line for the, well, he's in a privateer car at the moment. It's not for a particular team he's racing for, but he's fastest so far out of all the Am drivers is Gary Spencer, and he is now in 13th position, just being pushed down because we've got Van Roy go to 2nd fastest in the Pro class. He's fast out of all those in the Pro in the number 4 Ford. 2 minutes 4.4 for him, less than a tenth away from provisional pole position. It's getting even more intense, but the drivers know that the race is all what matters the most. But a good grid position in a 55-minute race is ever so paramount.
Yeah, especially with 40 cars, you really don't want to start at the back because you know that if you do, you're going to make it so difficult for yourself. You could put in a Max Verstappen performance here from Sao Paulo, but it's going to be difficult, let's be honest. It's a track where you can overtake, though. So it's not like Monaco where you have to stick behind and you can't really do anything. This is a track where you can make moves. And the problem is, though, on an improving track, the only bit where you really want to drive and where there is the most amount of grip is on the, at that time, racing line. Obviously, in the wet, that's not going to be the traditional racing line. But it's the line where most amount of the cars drive at that given time where you really want to be. So it's going to be difficult making passes if the track keeps improving.
Yeah, the rain has stopped as well. It's just cloudy conditions at the moment, so we expect the track to really continue to come into its own. The drivers finding the best times out there. Greens and greens have been posted in the sectors. We are focusing on Jason Everson for the Tabula Rasa esports team. He's heading towards the line. His previous best time is a 2 minutes 6.8, which he posted on his previous effort. He'll be going over the line in a moment, but we've now switched our attention to De La Cruz, who's in the Pro class, number 44 McLaren, who's yet to get a time on the board so far. We should expect him to be inside the top 10 for the grid later on, as he looks to just make his way out of the Ascari chicane and head towards the line in a moment. But so far, so good for Alfie Nichols, who's gone to the top with a time of 2 minutes 2.8. We're getting close to the 2 minute mark as we are entering the last 3 minutes of this qualifying session.
Yeah, they're edging ever closer. The later you post your time, it seems like the better. Drivers who did their 3 laps earlier on in qualifying are further down the order. Gaps are becoming quite big as we see De La Cruz now jump up to P4. Still 1.1 off though, and that was his 3rd attempt. A bit disappointing for the 44.
Yeah, well, he would hope to better than that, actually, and it will go again, although he's come to a slowdown, I think, actually, as De La Cruz, so that could well be his qualifying session done. When the clock reaches 0, that is that. Drivers won't be able to complete their flying laps. You can see that the rain is still actually coming down onto the racetrack and more water being left on the circuit. We are looking at the moment, Alfie Nichols, who's currently in P1 with a 2 minutes 2.8, 6 tenths clear over Josh Herring in 2nd place. The fastest out of all those in the Pro-Am is Tidwell in the 89 Lamborghini. And Cameron Frederick is pushed down to 8th position overall, 2nd in class, with Barriaca making up the top 3 in the Pro-Am. In the AMs, JT Sawyer is fastest out of all those with a 2 minutes 6.4, followed by Gary Spencer and Sopel Vader in the 050 McLaren. As we've entered the final couple of minutes, so we're hoping that many drivers are on a flying lap at this moment in time. Nichols is looking to go quicker. He's posted a fast sector 1, but in the remaining sectors, he has not quite been able to sustain the pace all the way through. So he could be in a spot of bother, actually, if the track continues to improve. Bradley Lovins is continuing to set the pace as well, and he could well, all of a sudden, take pole position here if he continues to keep up in the remainder of the lap he's on.
Well, a bit loose going into the left-hander. Now, this is a tricky bit of the track, isn't it? Because there is really only one line through there, and in the rain it makes it especially difficult because you have to go wider in the middle part of it. But yeah, the Ascara chicane, always a tricky one in the rain. The Porsche seems to handle it quite fine. He's purple in the 2nd sector, rounding off the last corner. Could well find himself in pole in a bit.
Well, he's coming through the curve. Alberta now is Bradley Lovins. Is this going to be an improvement from before? It most certainly is going to be an improvement, but how high up the field is he going to move up? Bradley Lovins going over the line in the 29 Porsche, and he goes to provisional pole with a 2 minute 2.7, less than a tenth faster than Alfie Nichols in the final minutes of the session. Has anyone got anything to respond to that? We'll wait and see. We've only got 20 seconds to go, and I wonder if there's going to be any more drivers improving over the line, and I don't think there is actually anyone more that can improve. And so that is that. Bradley Lovins, right at the death, has taken pole position away from Alfie Nichols by 3/4 of a tenth, and that was a fine effort at the right time.
Yeah, that is at the death of it. I could see well, he was wrestling that car through Ascari. He's looking quick, but of course looking quick is one thing. You'll have to put it down, and at the death of it, with 700ths of a second, snatches pole away.
Indeed, and we're into the warm-up session, so we won't be able to show the grid just yet, for reasons of which there's going to be drivers setting lap times in this warm-up session, so we'll just leave the grid alone for now. But they just want to make sure they get some mileage in, because it looks like the clouds have darkened again around Monza, and they know that there's going to be different levels of grip no matter how much rain is coming down. There may not be as much grip as what they have just had in the final part of that qualifying hour, of that final 15 minutes of quali.
Yeah, you can see on the right hand side the temperature at the moment 19 degrees, 18 degrees track temperature. Usually, Tom, you would say that drivers would like that, however it's raining. Now, there will be drivers that prefer the rain over the dry, purely because there are more opportunities. I was expecting a bit more of a mix, maybe, of Pro-Am and Am drivers in qualifying. But, I mean, Pro drivers, they still rose to the top, even in these tricky conditions. Even though that these conditions usually are, Tom, the conditions where you can see a surprise or two.
Yeah, I can imagine drivers out there, some of which who may not have been performing as well as they'd like to have done this season, have got a chance to put that right here. Rick Modric is one of those who'll be looking to move up the order. He's in the Pro-Am class, is Rick. There are two Modric's in the field. One is Rick, who's in the Pro-Am class, and you've got Cole Modric, who's in the Pro class in the number 5 McLaren. And so we have got this 5-minute warm-up session, although we've just had a couple of minutes of that anyway. Drivers just learning where the grip is at. So many puddles around, which you want to try and avoid if you can. I think the only time you really want to be on the puddles is when the track is dried up and you need to find water just to cool the tyres a little bit.
Yeah, I'm going to be interested to see if it is actually going to dry up. We don't have anything that will tell us the forecast, sadly. But it looks like, at least for the moment, well, dark clouds overhead. It looks like it's going to keep raining until the race. There will be, in the session itself, about a 15-minute difference between this warm-up and the race session. So the conditions they have now are quite similar to what they'll have at the start of the race. So I think that's why we're seeing so many drivers out on track, just feeling the conditions, feeling the grip, because you know how it is. It's different every time you go around the track when it's raining. There's not one lap that will be the same in these rainy conditions. So every bit of experience that you can get now beforehand will be experience gain for the race.
Yeah, because every lap is, the braking and stopping distances are going to be different to what it was a couple of minutes before. So you can't assume that just because you brake at a particular point before a corner doesn't mean you need to brake at exactly the same time next time around, and that's something you've got to try and preempt if you can. And Philip de la Cruz will be one of those to take that on board heading into the race later. We don't know for certain what the weather conditions are going to bring for the race. If it's going to be dry conditions, well, it's going to be quite different for the drivers. But if it's absolutely treacherous as the race gets underway, then that could prove to be a little bit tricky. We are with Mikey Rogers, who's going through Ascari right now, exiting Ascari, and he'll just be wanting to make sure he gets a clean first lap at the beginning, because I've said this many times before, the first lap is not where the race is won, but it's where your race could end up being ruined before it's even begun. So there you go. That is one important thing to remember. I'm sure the drivers will have been briefed beforehand about how to go about tackling the course in the opening stages.
Yeah, I fully agree. I've done many races myself where obviously there are opportunities. It's always easiest to gain positions at the start because everyone's so close and so bunched up. But the difference between being a hero and a villain is very small. You can go from hero to zero pretty quickly, and especially in these tricky conditions. So most of these drivers will just be looking to keep their noses clean. There'll be enough opportunities, especially if you're at the front, to make your way past. And don't forget, strategy will play its game as well. So maybe you don't even want to be first.
Yeah, and it's very, very true, actually, because if you are the leader, you don't want to be the first person sort of guessing, because if you go in too deep or brake too early, then it could cause all sorts of problems behind. And this is why it's important to make sure you learn when to brake for the first corner, and that way you can get through the first section rather sleekly. The warm-up session has ended finally, and so we can get a grid up in a moment or so. Here it is, the grid, if we can go to the top. Bradley Lovins on pole position ahead of Alfie Nichols, with Jeremy Cheney and Josh Herring on the second row. Philip de la Cruz in fifth, ahead of Bradley Tidwell, who is the fastest out of all those in the Pro-Am class. Mitchell Bowen and Mikey Rogers are on row 4, followed by Dukovsky and Cameron Frederick on row number 5. David Van Roy and Barry Acker on row 6, followed by Michael Dion and Sean Riley. Penal Hanley and Quinton Price are on row 8, followed by Cole Modric and Jason Everson on the 9th row of the grid. JT Sawyer, the fastest out of all those in the AM class, ahead of Gary Spencer, rounding out the top 20. Adam Hansen and Sepulveda are on row 11, followed by Purser and Risley on row number 12. Svorak and Heath Ollinger are on row 13, ahead of Elliot and Ryan Byers. Pocock and Michael Champlin on the 15th row of the grid, running up the top 30. Rick Modric and Cody Bonse on row 16, ahead of Brennan and Curtis Matthews, and Clive Comfort and Jerry Maines in 35th and 36th places, respectively. Nick Marshall and Bazil are on row 19, ahead of Dan Marie and Dustin Matney on row number or Algray on row number 20. With Dustin Matney, Jonathan Williams and Scott Carlson rounding up the grid. The 43 car grid for today's race. I've just seen the timings have changed, and that's because the drivers are being escorted by the safety car, which will peel into the pits. I don't know if it'll peel in at the end of this lap, or whether they'll do another lap before this race does get underway.
I have a feeling it'll peel in at the end of this lap. This is the half formation lap that you get just to shorten it, so we don't have to wait ages before we get round to start finish. But bless you, Tom, that's a big grid to go through. 43 cars will be hurtling down into the Rettifilio chicane. Will we get through clean? That's the question. Alfie Nichols and Bradley Lovings at the front of the field will surely hope to do so.
Yeah, so there'll be all the eyes will be on the front two to make sure they get through turn one safely. The drivers will have been briefed about how to tackle the first lap of this course, and so we await for the pace car to head in unless we do go round another. No, it's coming in, and so this race will get underway here at Monza. The drivers will wait for the red lights to extinguish, and when they go out, that is when they can start racing here. And so we are underway now, I believe, and Bradley Lovins will lead clear over Alfie Nichols at the start here at Monza, and we will go to the Rettifilio chicane to see whether they'll get to turn one and turn two safely. And we got Bradley Lovins leading the way ahead of Alfie Nichols, with Jeremy Cheney and Philip de la Cruz next behind Josh Herring, maintaining his fifth position. I think he just got in front of Bradley Tidwell, who is in the Pro-Am class, so no surprise there. But there's been a collision already, and someone has gone off at the Rettifilio chicane, Dan.
Yeah, that's Modric who's gone off, and that's surely not what he wanted. He's now dropping all the way down the order, almost back to last place already. But Bradley Loving's getting the start he needed, led them off to the green light, took the jump, and well, he's almost got a second clear of Nichols behind him already.
Yeah, so Lovin staying clear of Alfie Nichols, doing a terrific job so far. Philip de la Cruz in front of Josh Herring, and that's because someone had gone round at the first chicane. Cole Modric, I think it was, that had spun round at the first chicane. We've got drivers switching round in the midfield as well, and you can just see they're in single file on the exit of the second part of Lesmo. Philip de la Cruz in third position behind Bradley Lovins and Alfie Nichols, heading towards the Ascari chicane. Herring just doing his best to keep up with them, but Lovins and Nichols pulling a bit of a distance away from the rest of the pack.
Yeah, Michael Bowen has stayed where he was. A lot of gainers. Biggest loser at the moment in the field is Modric, who we obviously saw go around at the Rettifilio chicane on the first time of asking. And a lot of cars passed him in that instance. Oh, and there's another incident for Modric, who's gone round again. He's collected the 71. That is the other. Oh, well. Well, Tom, we have a bit of trouble here between the Modrics. That's not going to be a nice dinner tonight.
No, I would have thought so. And you can just see Rick Modric being tapped around again, just to add insult to injury. And I think the two Modrics are not going to be too pleased with each other. Jonathan Williams looks like he's already out as well. I don't think he took the start either. But the two Modrics already in the wars on the first lap here at Monza, as Lovins and Nichols do battle at the Rettifilio chicane. Lovins staying in front for now, but Nichols will refuse to leave him alone at this early stage.
Yeah, for both the Modrics already, it's over before it really even began. And I think that was braking on the white line for Modric, who, well, it spun him off into the inside, lost traction. And, well, the rest is history. That's a bit late for Lovings, who's gone deep into the second of the two chicanes we have here. And he's going to give up some time. He's going to have to slow down. That's going to open up the opportunity for Alfie Nichols to once again close up that gap.
Yeah, he'll gain time from going over the chicane. Will Lovins, he'll need to make sure he might even get a slow down penalty, or just slow down a little bit just to make sure he doesn't get penalised next time he goes over that chicane again. But this is the problem, lap by lap by lap, you just don't know the braking and stopping distances until you get there, hence why you need to try and brake a little bit earlier than expected to ensure you get through the chicane sweet and sound. De la Cruz is still in front of Herring in the battle for third place overall and in class. Tidwell is still ahead of Frederick and Acker in the Pro-Am fight, and JT Sawyer has maintained his position ahead of his rivals in the AM class. I don't think Gary Spencer has had a good start to this race either. He was running near where Sawyer was, but I think he's dropped back from his position. He's down to 22nd position. He's behind Sublevada, he's behind Risley, he's behind Ollinger, Elliott, and that. I think Quinton Price in the Pro-Am has dropped down the order all of a sudden. I think he's made a mistake somewhere, but still, we've got a battle on our hands between Lovins and Nichols for the lead, and De La Cruz and Herring for P3.
This is a good slipstream battle for Herring. De La Cruz had, well, not the greatest exit out of the last corner. That's going to open up the opportunity now for Herring. He's going to take it on now. He's going to decide to stick behind, but look how that McLaren is moving around under braking. That can't be nice in any car to experience it. And you just don't know what you're going to get. You just don't know what to expect going into turn one, it seems like.
Well, you could just see that when you lock the rears, you can see the car twitching around, desperate to get the car slowing down. And sometimes the car can feel reluctant to turn in as of when you want it to. But Lovins and Nichols seem to have...
He's gone deep again! Lovins has gone deep again!
Well, he's gone over the chicane again as Lovins, and he needs to be careful doing that. Otherwise, he could pick up a slowdown penalty, which will not please him one bit. And that will be all the invitation that Nichols needs to take over leadership of this race. So that's 2 laps in a row where Bradley Lovins has gone over the De La Rocha chicane. And he just needs to be careful not to keep repeating that. Otherwise, he could end up taking a drive through or stop and go. But it looks like De La Cruz has made a mistake on the exit of Lesmo. And that has allowed Josh Herring to go through and up into P3.
Got onto the AstroTurf on the outside of the corner. Meanwhile, there's a batter for the lead as well. Nichols trying to put all the pressure he can on Bradley Lovins at the front. But De La Cruz in the background got onto the AstroTurf on the outsides of the second of the 2 Lesbos. And, well, he just didn't get any traction there. And it's basic racing rules in the wet, isn't it, Tom, to just stay off any painted surfaces or off the AstroTurf.
Yeah, perhaps maybe staying off the puddles as well, as that's what can cause the aquaplaning. The rain is still coming down as far as I know. We're not expecting the track to dry at all between now and the end of the race. The drivers will remain on wet tyres all the way through. Lovins is still clear by only a few tenths on Alfie Nichols as they head towards the finish line to complete lap number 3. And so we've still got a long way to go. The rain's still teaming down, and that's Nichols losing it. And does he avoid Lovins? I think he did just about, but that tells you everything that you need to know about the conditions. They change all the time, lap by lap.
Well, it's a miracle that Alfie Nichols is even still going with the snap he got. That's car control for you, ladies and gentlemen. If you want to learn, send an invitation to Alfie Nichols. He might be able to learn you something. My goodness. The fact he's still going is an absolute miracle, Tom. He has lost some time, though. And for once, it seems like Bradley Lovins actually makes the De La Rocha chicane. So gap stays at 1.3. But it also seems like, and that's something that I have noticed now the last couple of laps, Tom, is that the white line on the exit of pit lane, if you brake and you touch it by just a millimeter, you're going to be gone.
Yeah, you want to be staying off that and just stay on the racing line. But you also want to avoid touching the white line on the outside to the corner as well, because that can really cost you dear. And it's going to come down to who is brave enough to really use that white line to get an overtake done at the Retteville chicane, or whether the drivers may feel that there are other parts of the circuit where it's better to get the overtakes done without seeing the car twitch around on entry. We are seeing a battle further down the field. We're focusing on Parnell Hanley, who's running in 14th position and 5th in class by the look at the timing tower there. He's doing okay as we speak, but he's just about to be overtaken. I think that's JT Sawyer who he was battling with. I think he's going through on JT Sawyer up to 13th place. Hanley through, no problem there. We are now looking at the number that is the number 11 we are focusing on as we speak. Lovins still ahead of Nichols as far as we know. Lovins' time of 2 minutes 2.7 is his personal best lap of the race. And looking at who's posted the best lap of the race so far, who's set a purple, I think it has to be Lovins because he's at the front of the field. Yep. But we don't expect, well, don't be at all surprised to see the lap times come down as they the grip continues to be laid down by the drivers.
Yeah, it's not only that, obviously the drivers are getting more comfortable with the track conditions. They're learning every lap they go round. And like I said on the top of this show, it's so difficult. Conditions are different every lap. Of course, they went out in the warm-up before this, but there seemed to be a lot more grip back then than there is now. However, lap times are coming down. The question is though, will we see a lap time below 2 minutes in this race?
Well, we're only 9 minutes so far into the event, and Nick Lovin's doing all he can from pole position. 1.4 seconds is the margin from Alfie Nichols. Josh Herring in third place, and Philip De La Cruz, who was running towards the top, has made a mistake somewhere and he's fallen down big time.
Yeah, De La Cruz, here he is.
Oh, he's still in fourth place, sorry, yeah. See, I was looking at his name for a moment there. I thought he's dropped down, but he hasn't. He's still in fourth position, is Philip De La Cruz, is ahead of Mikey Rogers. So the top five all in the pro class. Bradley Tidwell in sixth position in the pro-am, still ahead of that respective category. And then we've got Mitchell Bowen in seventh place, ahead of Cameron Frederick. And it's Dion and Purser running out the top 10, both of those two in the pro class as we speak. And I wonder what the drivers will be thinking about pit stops. Obviously, it's too early at this stage to think about coming in now, but when do you decide to blink?
Do you want to lose that toe? That's my question. Obviously, in the rain, the toe isn't as effective because you're not getting up to as high of a speed as you would do in the dry, as Price is trying to make his way past Forak, and he has made his way past. So next target for him will be Risley up front. He's P3 at the moment in the AM class, so that's not for class position, but obviously every overall position will help. Regarding the strategy, I think it's difficult to say. Conditions will be changing all the time. The rain has seemed to have picked up a bit once again. Lap times are still coming down, however. A 2:02.10 from Alfie Nichols at the front of the field last time round has closed that gap to 1 second. It was over half a second faster last time round. So the question really is, do you want to pit now, or do you want to have the benefit later on in the race of maybe having fresher tyres?
Well, that's the million-pound question, isn't it? And we are watching Quinton Price and Dan Sfarrick go to battle. Well, in fact, Price has pulled away. There's a car off in the gravel, and that'll be Sepulveda in the McLaren, who has gone for a spin. We don't know how he's managed to do that, but that is him off into the gravel, and that's left himself with more work to do than desired. And Price will head on through, and it's a shame there for Sepulveda because he was running rather well, it has to be said, until he made that mistake, and he's fallen down the order quite significantly, and I think he's gone back to the pits as well, so that could well be his race done and dusted.
There you go. It's like I said, Tom, it's break. Oh my goodness, and he just about manages to avoid. He's at the 71, I think, isn't it? But that was breaking on the white line of the pits. Let's have another look at that. Here we go.
Yep.
He's going to break on the white line now. Watch it. Left-hand side tyres. He tries to go to the inside of the McLaren ahead. Left-hand side tyres on the white line, loses all traction, and is lucky. That McLaren is damn lucky to avoid any contact.
Yeah, and that was very lucky as well. If that's the 71, that's Rick Modric, who's a lap down, I believe, on the field, or so far behind. But either way, that is a bad exit there for Sepulveda, who is out of the race on the spot, and that takes the number of retirements. I think we've only got. I think Cole Modric is still going, so I think we've got 36 still circulating around the racetrack, and so that is not a good sight there for Sepulveda. He'll be hoping for better next time out. So we've got Lovins and Nichols. The gap has come down to 6/10 between those two. Josh Owen in third position. Mikey Rogers in fourth now because De La Cruz has made a mistake somewhere now, and so it's right to believe that he's I'm right to believe he's now made a mistake because he's nowhere near where he was earlier on. Where has he gone down now, De La Cruz? He must be down quite somewhere. He's down to 35th position, is De La Cruz. He's made a mistake somewhere, and we'll maybe hope to find out what exactly happened to De La Cruz. And we watch Nichols and Lovins go toe-to-toe once more, entering the second part of Lesmo.
Yeah, I'll try and find that incident for De La Cruz, but I can't find anything at the moment. It might just be the case that De La Cruz has had a disconnect, because I can look back as far as I want, but there's no Delacruz crash or just any off-track moment for him. So it could just be that Delacruz has disconnected at some point, which is bittersweet for him.
Which could well be the case. You can see Nichols right on the tail of Lovins now. They're coming towards a back marker, I believe, as well, which won't particularly help the situation. Who is that they are coming up to now? I think that is that Al Gray who they're coming up to lap. He stays out of the way either way.
I don't want one thing for sure, and that's that car more looks like a Merc GT4 without that rear wing on the back of it than it does like a GT3.
Yeah, it looks like he's been in the wars somewhere. I can't even see the rear wing of that car, so it looks like he's trundling around with no rear wing to its wagon, which is not particularly a please. Inside that is Marie, who's in the AM class, and it does look like he's got it. Yeah, his rear wing's gone missing, hasn't it? He'll need to next time he comes into the pits, he'll want to get a new rear wing fitted on. So it's been a race to forget for Marie, who's racing in the Mercedes for the Carolina squad.
Yeah, this is you're gonna lose quite some performance on the car. I'm actually surprised he can even keep that car on the track at the moment. You lose so much downforce on the rear end. You think that these rear wings don't do that much, but well, I have a challenge for you. Take them off and try and drive the car, and you'll see how much it does to just at least keep the car stable throughout mid-corner and entry, just anywhere through a corner. One thing's for sure, straight line speed will be up now.
Yeah, well, you may not have as much downforce, which means you can get more straight line speed, but it's not really important in these conditions to have the straight line speed. And I think if I was Dan Marie, I would probably head back to the pits and get a new rear wing on, because he is struggling out there like anything. And Nichols is on the tail of Lovins for the lead, but we're now looking at Frederick and Tidwell. Frederick has got in front of Tidwell in the Pro-Am class as we watch. I think that's Dan Marie who's gone for a spin on the exit of Lesmo 1.
Yeah, Tidwell is our only Lamborghini in the field, Tom. And he's not doing too bad. It seems like the Lamborghini is quite liking these conditions as well. This is the battle for the Pro-Am leads. Frederick ahead of him now, but Tidwell putting pressure on him, and he might well get past soon.
We're seeing those two go through Ascari now. Frederick ahead of Tidwell, and Frederick doing a fine job in these conditions, as is Tidwell, who are making the most of what's out there. And Lovins and Nichols are nose to tail once more. The gap is 3/10 between the two. Quinton Price gets in front of Risley for 14th position. Ollinger moving in front of Hanalei, who has hit trouble by the looks of it. We're looking at Nichols and Lovins fighting for the lead. Will Lovins think about going for it? I think given the fact that there is that white line on the pit exit, he'll want to avoid braking on the entry there. Does he get through safe and sound? Perhaps, hopefully. No, he runs into Lovins almost into turn 1 there. And it looks like they've all survived by the skin of their teeth a little bit. I think they know where to brake, and so they carry on their way through the Curva Grande.
I think interesting to see is that the two drivers are driving completely different lines and also completely different driving styles. What I can see is that Bradley Lovins he's driving it in a bit harder. He's focusing more on the entry than he is on the exit, focusing more on mid-speed, on mid-corner speeds instead of the exit. And it's the other way around for Alfie Nichols, which would help him in an overtaking situation. However, with that mistake, he's dropped back to a second. I think one thing that we can see, Tom, is that, well, drivers are struggling to stay consistent in these conditions, and wouldn't you? These are not the easiest conditions to drive around in, but, well, it's not helping their chances to go for an overtake or try and make their way past in any way whatsoever. And Alfie Nichols on the entry of Ascari, once again getting the rear end of that Ferrari pretty loose.
Yeah, well, I think he doesn't tell that the conditions are getting worse right now, given that the skies have darkened, more spray is being kicked up, and the drivers are starting to struggle a little bit now. Bradley Tidwell and Frederick are still fighting for position. Tidwell back ahead in the lead of the Pro-Am class, and further behind we've got Cameron Risley, I believe, who's the leader of the AM class, ahead of JT Sawyer. So those two, in terms of the gap between them, is just under a couple of seconds, or just over a couple of seconds now between the pair. And we are not too far away, actually, to be seeing pit stops. but it's going to come down to who will blink first.
Yep, and I think once one goes, I think the others might follow. Now, I am interested to look at this because I thought before that I was looking at a Lexus and I was like, for sure that's not a Lexus because iRacing doesn't have the Lexus GT3. But it does say Lexus on the sun protection on the windshield, and it is a Lexus livery. So that's where my confusion comes from. Turns out if you slap a Lexus livery on a BMW, they look somewhat similar.
Yeah, well, you can see Purser in the Lexus livery BMW making his way through. Barry Acker in 10th place overall, 3rd in the Pro-Am class, heading through the Retafilio chicane. We haven't seen too many drivers in this race, actually, Dan. Given the weather conditions, we thought might see some drivers tripping over themselves. We did see a little bit on the first lap involving both Cole and Rick Modric. But I think other than that, we've not seen anything too dramatic that has changed the complexion of the race so far.
No, and you can also see how difficult it actually is to run in the sprint. You can't see much. This is the chance now for Adam Hansen on the switchback, and Barry Acker gets passed by Adam Hansen. They're still alongside each other. Barry Acker trying to make his way still on the outsides of Hansen, but he gets that move done, makes it stick, and he uses that tiny mistake from Barry Acker running deep into the Della Roggia to make his way past up onto the podium of the Pro-Am class is Adam Hansen now.
And we've got a switcheroo for the lead as well between Bradley Lovins and Alfie Nichols. They were swapping like 3 times in the space of blink.
Nichols is gone. He has to watch out, doesn't get an unsafe pit entry with that, but Nichols is gone. He touches the white line on the outside of the last corner. And he might well go into pit lane now. No, he chooses to continue, but Alfie Nichols, with that mistake, drops down to, well, off the podium now in the Pro class and overall. And that small mistake of touching the white line for the tiniest of margins has resulted in the biggest of losses for Nichols, and he's down to 4th now.
Well, it's a total shame for Alfie Nichols. He caught the white line on the exit for Alboreto, and that was what cost him dear. And that has allowed Josh Herring and Mikey Rogers to go through into 2nd and 3rd places, respectively. Alfie Nichols has got with it all to do to get back in the fight with Bradley Lovins. He's got a lead of 4 seconds over Herring. Now, bearing in mind, Lovins and Herring are both in Porsches, but it's who can make the most of the conditions. Lovins, we've seen make a couple of mistakes at the Della Roggia chicane so far in this race so far. Will he be able to get through this time, given the conditions? In fact, just seeing, I think that was Mikey Rogers. Did he go through the chicane there, or was it someone else? I couldn't quite tell.
No, I do think it was Mikey Rogers who, well, jumped the curbs at the Della Roggia chicane, but no, at least bad stuff happening there. He can continue, car won't like it. There might be no floor left under that McLaren, so we'll have to look at that, but no, I think all fine for Mikey Rogers. He's lost some time, but that's about it.
Yeah, so Mikey Rogers carrying on his way, 8.5 seconds off Josh Herring for 2nd position. We're getting a replay now of what happened to Alfie Nichols, because he was going side by side with Bradley Lovins, entering the Parabolica, round the outside one. He was in front, but he went too deep, really. Although he made the corner, it allowed Bradley Lovins to get back on the inside. But the trouble for Nichols is that he's going to catch the white line, which is going to send him to a spin, and that's what exactly happened there. And Nichols, well, I think he's probably established the fact that if you avoid catching the white line, then you know you're not going to spin around the way he's just on there.
Yeah, that's it's a tough one, but he has to make sure he can make his way back now. His disappointments are not decided by what happens, but how you deal with them. So Alfie Nichols now has to try and make his way back up to the podium. That's the first aim he has, and then try and make his way back to P2 and P1. He did have the pace, let's be honest. He caught up about 1.5 seconds to Lovings, but with 31 minutes and a bit to go in this race, it's going to be difficult with a gap of about 15 seconds now.
Yeah, well, it's going to be too much of a gap for him to claw back on next. Lovins makes an absolutely horrendous mistake somewhere, and which Josh Herring will capitalise and make his way through. The rain is still coming down here at Monza, which is still making it tricky, but it feels like the sun is bursting through the clouds somewhat.
Yeah, this track will start to improve now. We're actually seeing that at the moment. Alfie Nichols, after the mistake he's made, has got the pit between his teeth. It's gone purple in Sector 1. He's improving in Sector 2 as well. So Alfie Nichols is determined to make his way back up to the podium at least. And, well, he's got nothing to lose at this point anymore, has he?
Well, we'll wait and see. He needs to try and get it done, ideally, before the Parabolica. That's probably his best chance to do it at. So he's behind Rogers as they head through the Ascari chicane, and they'll come up to the Parabolica very, very shortly. And they are coming up. Well, they're actually on the same team, these two, for the 4X Racing Squad, hence why they've got the same livery as each other, or similar livery. Nichols is still behind Rogers as they enter the Parabolica now. Will Rogers let Nichols go? I think he has done now, has Rogers, and so Nichols goes back up to P3 and can go after Josh Herring, who's got a margin of over 9 seconds, which Nichols has to make up.
I don't think it's quite done yet, Tom. These two are still side by side. He has now let Nichols slot in ahead of himself. So these two are now going to maybe try and work together. He has to make sure he doesn't take out his teammate. With a bit of a moment once again going into turn 1. Rear getting loosey-goosey. Under braking. But I mean, that's a moment we've seen so many times now. Drivers are actually starting to know what to expect going into these corners. Know when to expect the car to be loose. And they will know exactly where the grip is by this point.
There is a pit stop going down at for Cameron Frederick for 8-Bit Racing in for his mandatory pit stop, as is Barry Acker. They are both in. Frederick has exited the pits now. In fact, that was quite a quick pit stop actually for him. And so he's back out now. He'll rejoin the race in what looks like 11th position for him. And Acker will be out of the pits in a moment as well. That was quite a quick pit stop for Frederick, so I wonder if that may send a message to the other drivers that it might be best to come in for a stop. We're looking at a replay. This is Mitchell Bowen, who is heading towards the Delaroche chicane. What exactly happened to him? Has he had a moment? Does he go over the chicane here? We'll wait and see. In fact, he's had a spin, hasn't he?
Yeah, he has. And, well, he has to go over the chicane to make his way back onto the circuit. That'll give him a slowdown as a result, but with that mistake, he's now down into P6. Was in a very respectable 4th position. Oh, back to live pictures, and it's Jason Iverson who spun round. This is at Lesmo 1. Still watch out with the rejoin cars coming up. That was the 004 of Risley, who had a bit of a scare coming around Lesmo 1, but all is well. Nothing happened, luckily. And both of them able to continue their race. But Jason Iverson losing multiple positions with that spin. Still up 5 from where he started, but dropped 3 because of all of that.
Yeah, down a few positions there, Iverson, but at least he's rejoined safely in front of the pack there. There was a lot of cars coming through Lesmo 1. We're looking at Bradley Lovins, who's still got a lead of over 4.5 seconds on Josh Herring. Nichols is getting the gap down to Herring as we speak. Absolutely flying at the moment now is Nichols, since he got by the other Ferrari. Well, he got by the McLaren of Mikey Rogers is what I was trying to say. They're in different manufacturers. They're different manufacturers, but racing under the same livery, those two. But Nichols is pulling away from Rogers now. The gap is 2.7 seconds between the pair. We're halfway through the race now. We're on that 14. We expect it to be a 27-lap race, 26 at least, for the pack. But Lovins is coming up towards bat markers now. Who is that he is just coming up towards there? I think that is that Michael Champlin there he's coming up towards. I don't quite know. But either way, it shouldn't be too long before we start seeing the leaders come in, those in the Pro. And I wonder how much the likes of Frederick and Acker are gaining.
Yeah, with these fresher tyres, although I don't think they have taken them because their pit stop was quite short. These are all decisions that the drivers can take. You're free to do what you want. You can keep the tyres you're on currently. You can also switch to fresher tyres. Seems like some drivers have chosen to do so. Some drivers also have chosen to stay on the tyres they're on currently. So we're going to have quite a good mix, I think, at the end of this pit stop phase of drivers who have taken new and are staying on the older tyres. It was Price that Bradley Lovings was catching up to, just to clarify. But Alfie Nichols as well has set another purple lap time. He's set purple lap time after purple lap time after purple lap time. And this time around he set a 2:01.82 with, once again, a quickest first sector time.
Yeah, 0.3 faster than what Bradley Lovins had posted. And Josh Herring, Nichols getting the gap down, although he may not be getting the gap down as quickly as he'd like to be. So he'll want to try and just push a little bit harder as of when he can, but he needs to make sure he keeps it on the tarmac. Frederick has got through on Purser now for 9th position on circuit, and I wonder how much time he is gaining after his pit stop. I want to try and find his lap times actually for Lovins, as Adam Hansen has come into the pits for a stop that will allow Frederick to go up the order and go after Michael Dion. And they are heading towards now, just trying to find Cameron Frederick's time. 2 minutes 1.8, so it's actually similar to what Alfie Nichols is setting.
Yeah, and he's, I mean, being in that class, he's gaining on Tidwell as well. We have to keep that in mind. Gap 2:03.3 at the moment. And with his pit stop already made, he could post a very strong undercut here towards Tidwell.
That would be, it's important in his fight with Bradley Tidwell as well, as far as this race is concerned. With less than 25 minutes to go in the race, Lovins and Herring's best time has been in the low 2-minute 2s, whereas you look at Alfie Nichols, he's setting times in the high 2-minute 1s. He's going over the line now, is Bradley Lovins. Is this going to be his best? Is he going to go purple compared to what he's posted before? Indeed he is. It's a 2-minute 1.6, but how does that compare with Josh Herring and Alfie Nichols? Josh Herring's done a 2-minute 2.6, a whole second slower than what Lovins has just posted. Whereas with Alfie Nichols, it's now 2-minute 0.9 now. So 7 tenths faster almost than what Bradley Lovins had posted on the last lap. Want to have a look to see how Cameron Frederick gets on his fresher rubber, to see if we get a comparison as to when the leaders should be pitting in for new tyres, if that's what they are planning on doing. Well, unless Frederick has decided that he didn't take new tyres when he came in for his stop, he's just taken on fuel and carried on his way.
Looking at the pit stop time that he has, his pit stop time was 21 seconds, so I have a feeling that he's taken 4 new tyres, or at least 2 of them. But yeah, it looks like he's taken new tyres with that pit stop time, because as an example, it's Roy behind him in P9 overall, P7 in the Pro class. He's got a 6-second stop time, so that's enough to just take the fuel you need. So he has taken a risk here, he has taken a bit of a gamble to try and take new tyres, but at the moment it seems like that gamble is taken off, because once again he's a second quicker than Tidwell up ahead.
Yeah, in the last lap time he posted is his personal best lap of the race as well, 2-minute 1.68. Bradley Tidwell, as far as his lap time is concerned, 2-minute 2.5. But yes, like you say, nearly a whole second compared to what Frederick had posted. So Frederick absolutely flying in these conditions. Bearing in mind, he's got a lot of clear track ahead of him. So this is all playing to his hands. In the AM fight, JT Sawyer is the current AM leader. But I think someone else in the AM class was leading before he took over that respective lead in the class. Has come into the pits, but JT Sawyer, as far as his lap time is concerned, 2 minutes 7 he posted on the last lap, which is nowhere near his personal best. His personal best has been a 2-minute 5, and Joey Mains is a couple of positions back, and he's hoping to get up to the rear of him. Josh Herring has come into the pits from what is the second place it was before he came into the pits. He's hoping he can get out in a rather timely fashion. Mitchell Bowen heading in as well. His best lap time of the race has been a 2-minute 2.1. So we'll look to see whether the new rubber will play into the hands of Josh Herring as he goes after Bradley Lovins.
Stop time of 16 seconds, 17 seconds around there. So Once again, not the quickest, but for sure not the slowest. Will gain some time on at least the drivers behind him. Will gain some time on Cameron Frederick as well. About 5 seconds gained in the pit stop, but let's see if he can negate that with the older tires that he has. Frederick might well be able to catch up to him. Once again, a personal best lap time for Cameron Frederick behind that, so 2:01.6 flat. So yeah, he's got the bit between his teeth. I also have a feeling, Tom, that for Alfie Nichols, safety's off. He's got his head down, bit between his teeth. He's just chasing down Lovins.
Yeah, his last lap time was a 2 minute 1.2. Not his personal best, but it was still a respectable lap time compared to Bradley Lovins, who posted a 2 minute 3.3. I don't know if that's because Lovins got held up by back markers around the circuit. Surely he must think that a pit stop is the way to go now if he is to come away with the race win today. You can see Alfie Nichols come up behind, back markers there as he makes his way through. But this is getting to the tricky point in the race where if you are the leader, you should really think about pitting now.
Yeah, you can see the top right-hand side of your screen on the track map that there's a lot of traffic up ahead, and Bradley Lovins has indeed taken your advice, Tom. He's come into pit lane. Let's see if Alfie Nichols is going to follow him. No, the answer is he's going to continue for at least another lap. Maybe able to run a little bit lighter, therefore run a little bit quicker. Nichols, this time round 2:02.0. So it seems like the traffic not affecting him as much as it did Bradley Lovins.
And Nichols staying out there for the time being. His last lap time was a 2 minute 2.0 as the sun continues to beam down on the Monza racetrack. Mikey Rogers exiting the pit. Bradley Lovins exits the pits now. Where does he come out in comparison to Josh Herring as he comes down the pit straight? Now, remember, Josh Herring came in the lap before, so his lap time will be an out lap. I think Lovins has maintained the upper hand over Josh Herring on this occasion. So if Herring is going to get in front of Lovins, he'll have to do it on the circuit. But now he's on the fresher tyres. It'll take a lap or so for Lovins to get his tyres into the optimal window before he can actually set some blinding lap times. But it's now down to Alfie Nichols to see how far he can take his current rubber before he pits in for his set of tyres. Mikey Rogers is in fourth place. Go on there, Dan.
This is what I was fearing for, Tom. This is the traffic that, well, Bradley Lovins didn't want to hit, and Alfie Nichols decided to continue for at least one more lap. But this is the result of it. He's completely stuck in traffic at the moment. This is not helping his lap time one single bit. So I have a feeling this might have been the wrong decision. Always easy to say in hindsight. You make that split-second decision on the track. But Alfie Nichols will surely look to pit this lap to at least, well, take his nose out of all of this traffic ahead.
I think Alfie Nichols' hand will be forced here to head into the pit lane and get another set of tyres on. He is losing time as a car that's spun. I think that's Dan Marie who is spun at the Parabolica, unless I'm mistaken with that. But either way, Alfie Nichols does come into the pits, which was the most sensible decision for him to do. But I think his chances of a podium have been shattered by the looks of it. Dan Marie, who circulated around the circuit earlier without a rear wing, has had another spin at the Parabolica, but at least he's managed to continue there. But this has been a right of a race for him.
Yeah. Look on the positive side of things, at least he's got a rear wing left on that car this time round. He's going to bring that car into pit lane. The question is, does he have a meatball flag? Is he forced to put his car into pit lane? We'll get that answer soon. Here is Alfie Nichols. Bradley Lovins has already passed the pit exit. Herring has also made his way past. He has to watch out. He doesn't even lose P4 to Rogers now. Rogers is quite the way back. So he's going to keep that position at least, but all the time that he worked so hard for to gain back on Lovins is now gone.
Yeah, well, at least Nichols remains in front of Rogers, who was only a few seconds ahead of him before the pit stops had arrived for the pair of them. So Nichols still on course for a podium finish. Josh Herring has got the gap down to 3.3 seconds on Lovins. He took nearly half a second out of Lovins' lead on the last lap, so he's gaining time all the time as we speak. Well, I say his best lap time there for Herring has been a 2 minutes 2.1. Lovins' best lap time has been a 2 minute 1.6. Bearing in mind, Lovins came in on the lap after Herring, So we're just waiting for the next set of times to come through, and then that way we can have a direct comparison between who is gaining what on who. Heron and Lovins going round the second part of Lesmo. Still in P1 and in P2. There are not too many back markers in the way as we speak, but I think coming towards the end of the race, we will begin to see that. Bradley Tidwell running in P2 in the Pro-Am class behind Cameron Frederick, who is closing in, believe it or not, on Mikey Rogers overall. Now, remember, as far as the point system is concerned, it's not that each class has its own point system. The amount of points you get depends on where you finish overall. So for Cameron Frederick, every point matters to him. If he can get by Mikey Rogers, it's an extra point gain.
Yep, and this is exactly what Cameron Frederick at the front of the field is fighting for. He's gaining on Mikey Rogers as well. Mikey Rogers finds himself in a bit of traffic. It's the red and white McLaren on the left-hand side of your screen. The green and yellow and black Porsche behind that is Cameron Frederick. So once again, he's gaining on Rogers. This is what he needed. He's gotten within a second now. Alfie Nichols, though, after that pit stop, Tom, he's gone purple once again, and he seems to have been reborn with some new confidence.
Yeah, he's set the fast up of the race so far, has Alfie Nichols. Not on the last lap, though, because his last lap has been an out lap, so we'll have to wait and see whether the new tyres have come into good effect. But he is getting the gap down to Josh Owen. The gap is 6.4 seconds. I'm looking on the timing graphic, but he is absolutely getting the hammer down, as we've only got about 8 laps to go at most here at Monza. So these are qualifying laps for Alfie Nichols to get back into P2, which he had lost after that spin at the Parabolica whilst battling with Bradley Lovins. Cameron Frederick has got the gap down to less than a second between himself and Mikey Rogers as they go through the next part of, which is the De La Rocha chicane, actually, because Mikey Rogers is falling further and further back behind his teammate Alfie Nichols. We're going back to Dan Svorak, who's running in 16th position in the Pro-Am class, 5th in the category. He's just ahead of Champlin, who's right behind there. Michael Champlin, that is, who is racing for the 520 Sim Racing and the 8-Bit Racing team. The leader of the AM class is JT Sawyer, who is a few positions overall ahead of Jerry Maines after Maines had pitted. So Sawyer looking good for the class win as we speak, with less than 14 minutes remaining here at Monza.
Look at this, Tom. You can see absolutely nothing hurtling down on the turn one now. He's got a bit of a gap on the left-hand side through the spray of that McLaren, but you can see absolutely nothing. Puddles on the left-hand side. Has to watch out he doesn't catch one of them, because it's very easy to lose the car over them. Bit of over-rotation on the exit of the corner. But Michael Champlin has closed the gap up to less than a second to Svorak ahead of him. Problem is, though, Sawyer ahead of that has also lost time. So this is becoming a 4-horse race for P15 overall. Yeah, and like I've said, every point matters in the overall reckoning, no matter what class you are in. Champlin makes a mistake on the exit of the De La Rocha chicane and loses time, and Jerry Maines accepts the invitation and heads through. Comparing the lap times on the previous lap between the top three, Lovins' lap time was a 2-minute 1.5. Heron's lap time was a 2-minute 1.5, slightly slower, and Nichols' lap time was a 2-minute 1.2. So Nichols was 0.3 faster than Lovins, and in fact, I'm just looking at Heron's time, 2-minute 2.5. So in fact, Heron's lap time was a whole second slower than Lovins, and Nichols has gained 1.3 seconds on Heron on the last lap alone. It's game on. We might well see a battle for second place here towards the end of the race. 12 minutes left, Tom. If he wants to do something, he's got to do it quick, but with the pace he's running at the moment, he's going to get there. Yeah, and it looks like Cameron Frederick has dropped back a little bit from Mikey Rogers. I think he knows that he's done well enough to finish in where he is at. He's well ahead of Mitchell Bowen. He's well ahead, more importantly, of Bradley Tidwell in the race for the Pro-Am win. Frederick has got the gap back down, actually, to less than a couple of seconds. So Frederick may not giving it up by any means the imagination. But we are going to see in a moment what Lovins' lap time has been. His best lap time, or the last lap he did, was his best lap of the race so far, 2-minute 1.5. Don't be at all surprised to see that lap time
become a better one. Although Heron will be hoping for a better luck than we posted last time, because Nichols has been getting the gap down while we speak. And like I say, Lovin has posted his personal best up of the race at 2 minute 1.4. Heron has posted his personal best up of the race at 2 minute 1.6. And Nichols has posted a 2 minute 1.1, which is nearly half a second quicker than what Heron had posted, and only a couple of tenths faster than what Lovins had done. But is Nichols taking enough time out of what Lovins and Heron are producing?
I think he's got about 5-6 laps left. Yeah, I think he's got about 5 laps left here, Tom. Maybe 6, it'll be close to 6 to close up the gap and try and overtake Heron. But as they say, closing up is one thing, overtaking is another. He wants to buy himself as much time as possible to try and make that pass, to try and study Heron where he's quicker than him and where he can make that pass. So the sooner he arrives to the gearbox of that Porsche in second place, the better. Cameron Frederick is going for the move around the outside of the McLaren. Rogers is going to be put down to P5. He still carries it around the outside. Going into the first Lesmos, that McLaren is not giving it up.
No, and that was a super overtake there from Frederick, going round the outside into the Delarush chicane. And they're still going side by side through Lesmo 1. Has Frederick got the move done before the second part of the Lesmo? Rogers is still there. Frederick on the inside, heading into the corner there. It looks like Rogers is still having his nose in front, but they need to keep it clean there. Rogers cutting across on Frederick on the exit of Lesmo 2. And I think Frederick will give this one a go. He's got a big enough gap over Mitchell Bowen for 5th place. So he's got nothing to lose here, but he can't afford to take Rogers off the road, as he will not want to be in the steward's room afterwards. Frederick going to the outside into Ascari. Rogers leaves him enough room there, and so the battle just dies down for a little bit. But Frederick is absolutely flying in these conditions.
He tried that move around the outside of the Retifilio, and to be fair, Tom, that's a move that for most drivers won't ever even work. So great respect, great racing between the two of them. Also props to Rogers for leaving him the space on the outside, and then the favor was repaid by Frederick when he left on the outsides of both Lesmos. So yeah, great respect and great racing between the two of them. Cameron Frederick fancies some more of it.
Yeah, he's looking to it, but he's got to remember he doesn't want to be on the white line there, so Rogers will want to try and get off the white line onto the entry of Retifilio, which I think he's able to get through Retifilio fine. Comparing the lap times between the top 3 while we watch this battle here, as we see Frederick go to the outside of Rogers there, but I think Rogers comes over for now. Lovins posted a 2 minute 1.5 on the last lap. Heron posted a 2 minute 1.6. Nichols posted the fast up of the race, a 2 minute 0.7. Nichols getting the gap down to less than 4 seconds between him and Josh Heron. Frederick's still going at it with Mikey Rogers, but he has to yield there and just allow Rogers to go. But that battle is still intensifying more and more and more as we speak.
I don't think Frederick will want to let this go. These are extra points, like you said, that he can pick up for his Pro-Am Championship. And at the end of the day, every point gained is 1 point extra, and at the end of the season, that 1 extra point might well be your best friend. So Cameron Frederick will try his utmost to still close up to the back of Rogers, make his pass. But he also has to watch out that he doesn't throw away what he's got at the moment. Because let's be honest, for Cameron Frederick to be up in P5 already in itself is an achievement.
Yeah, we've got a brilliant battle going on between the AM leaders of JT Sawyer and Jerry Maines. It's 15th overall, but it's for the AM class victory. That's has all of a sudden come alive now. Maines, who got in front of Sawyer for a moment, is now right up the gearbox of him. But look, if they come together, that could open the door for Elliott to take victory in that respective category. It's game on between him, Jerry Maines, and JT Sawyer, as we see Maines look to the inside of Sawyer. Does Sawyer going too deep into the Delaroche chicane? It looks like he has. He's gone over the chicane as JT Sawyer, and Maines has gone through and takes the AM class lead with less than 7 minutes remaining. That battle was intensifying, but I don't think that is going to be the last of it.
No, surely not. Neither is this the last of the battle at the front. Frederick will swoop his way around the outside of that so long and so long-lasting right-hander. Curva Grande. Will he be able to make his way past into the Della Rogers chicane? He's got the inside this time compared to the outside. What he had last time. Breaking late is Rogers, and he's still able to keep that position.
It's a good over. Well, Michael Rogers holding on for now, but Frederick is not giving up by any means. He goes one way. Frederick goes the other way, entering the first part of Lesmo. Frederick right round the outside there, but Rogers will have the high ground on entry. And now Frederick is coming back with a great exit speed round the outside. What a brilliant move from Cameron Frederick to go right round the outside of Mikey Rogers. But he doesn't quite get the best of exits out of the second part of Lesmo, which allows Mikey Rogers to get back alongside. His nose is still in front, is Mikey Rogers, as they enter the Ascari chicane. Who will be in front by the time they get to the corner there? It looks like Frederick will have the inside line, so he should be able to break later than Rogers. But Rogers is still able to hold on remarkably. This battle has been arguably the best of the race so far. Frederick gets his nose in front as Rogers went slightly wide on the exit of Ascari, but Rogers will be coming back at him in the near future.
He's finally got his nose ahead. Will it last? Rogers has a look, but not more than that. Frederick has got the move done, and it looks like he's the quicker of the two. Is he now able to pull a bit of a gap to the McLaren behind him? That will be the question that'll be answered within the next 4.5 minutes. At the front of the field, in front of this battle, it's a 3-second gap for Alfie Nichols to Josh Herrin. I have a feeling he's not quite doing enough at the minute, Tom.
Well, he's got the gap. He was a whole second faster than Josh Herrin in the fight for second place, is Alfie Nichols, so it's not done yet. Frederick has finally got in front of Rogers at last, and so he's up to 4th position. And we're looking at Alfie Nichols is getting the gap down all the time. 3 seconds is the margin as they head through Lesmo. Nichols is getting stuck behind back markers, which will not please him one little bit, and he'll just want to get by. Who's that who is holding him up there? It looks like a Pro-Am driver that is holding him up through the second part of Lesmo. But this is the battle for between Joe Mains. Oh, that's Michael Champlin, isn't it? Who's in the who's 5th in the Pro-Am class, ahead of JT Sawyer, who's dropped back since Joe Mains got by him, and that will not. JT Sawyer will be really disappointed he's not come away with the AM victory as it stands. We've got Rick Modric. Is it Rick Modric who's coming back through the field? There it is. He's in 20th position following the contact with his brother, who is in a different class to where he is. Cole Modric had exited the race some time ago, for your information. And given the number of runners we've got left, we've got 30 still running out of the 43 that have entered this particular round in the Coffee Cup series in the Old Guys Racing League. And we've got just a couple of laps remaining here. I want to have a look at the lap times between Lovins, Herrin and Nichols. 2 minute 1.3 for Lovins, 2 minute 2.2 for Herrin, 2 minute 2.3 for Nichols, and that explains why the gap is still the same, given that Nichols had been held up behind traffic.
JT Sawyer is properly struggling here, Tom. He's lost time to Champlin, to Mains, and ahead of him is that Champlin who's gone deep. Yes, it is. No consequences for Champlin this time round, but doesn't want to do that more often because that will result in a slowdown. But Mains, Champlin all gaining and all driving away from Sawyer. And it's Vorak in P18 who's gaining onto the back of the McLaren ahead of him now. He's got the run. Will he be able to make this pass into Ascari?
Well, we'll wait and see. Vorak is right behind Sawyer for position here. Now they've got Bradley Lovins coming up behind as well, so they've got to be careful they don't hold up the leader. I mean, Lovins has got 6 seconds in hand over Josh Herrin, so he'll take it very easy from here. We've got Everson, who looks like he's been in the wars somewhere as well. We saw him have a spin at the first part of Lesmo earlier in the race, but it looks like he's been hit with trouble as far as we know. But Svorak is making his way through on JT Sawyer, but looks fit, or at least trying to get through. I think he allowed the lead to go by did Svorak, which is sensible for him to do. But he'll want to try and get hold of that 17th place of JT Sawyer. Now, in theory, Svorak should get by Sawyer, given that Svorak is in a higher class to Sawyer. But in these conditions, it's formed some form of equaliser for the drivers. The final lap has begun. And Lovins, well, despite being stuck behind back markers, has still got a 5-second lead. Heron has gone over the line with his personal best lap of the race, but Nichols is posted the fastest up of the race at 2 minutes 0.7.
Well, track getting ever quicker, and it seems to be quickest at the death of it. 2.4 seconds is the gap, though. I don't think it's enough still, Tom. He's too far back to try anything. We might have got tops 2 laps left. No, we're on the last lap now because the leader is right ahead of this battle. And I don't think it's enough with 2.5 seconds. Svorak looking to the inside of Sawyer now. Remember, overall positions will give you points in your championship class as well. So it's important that you get every position you can get. It's the 99. Is that Kalski who's struggling? It looks like it is. Yes, it is. He's made a mistake somewhere. Gone off track, and well, they've gained both of that position as well. Let's have a quick look. This is what happened to Kalski. He's just going to go deep all on his own. He's going to go and have a spin, isn't he?
Yeah. He's going to, I think he's going to probably go over the chicane, actually, is Dikowski. Yeah, he's had a spin right on the racing line, actually, did Dikowski, and he'll have lost positions thanks to that. But we want to go back to the leader of Bradley Lovins, who's coming towards the end of his final lap here at the Monza racetrack. What a race it's been, despite all the pressure which was soaked up on him by Alfie Nichols before Nichols had that spin on the exit of the Parabolica. And Lovins just carried on his way and managed the gap over the others. Nichols has got the gap down to Herring, but it's too little too late for him. Bradley Lovins is coming through the Parabolica for the last time to take a convincing win in the Porsche. And what a brilliant performance it's been by him. Bradley Lovins wins at Monza in the Coffee Cup All Guys Racing League. That was a sensational performance by him. Josh Herring will hold off Alfie Nichols for second place, despite the best efforts from Alfie on the second split especially. Looking at the lap times actually coming over the line, it was a 2-minute 1 for Alfie Nichols, a 2-minute 1.6 for Josh Herring, but it doesn't matter. Herring held off Alfie Nichols by a couple of seconds. And Mikey Rogers has got back ahead of Cameron Frederick all of a sudden, because I think Frederick made a mistake somewhere. But it doesn't matter for Frederick too much, because he'll still take the Pro-Am victory ahead of Bradley Tidwell, with Adam Hansen completing the Pro-Am podium. Jerry Maines remaining on the lead lap. In fact, he's the only AM driver to remain on the lead lap. So he will automatically take the AM victory ahead of JT Sawyer, with Elliott completing the podium places in that category.
Oh, he has to finish it first. Oh, Joey Maines going into Lesmo 1 almost drops the car. And with too big of a damage, wouldn't even been able to finish this race and would have been classed as, well, not classified. So it's not quite done yet. Has to bring it home. But yeah, I think Joey Maines, with him being the only AM driver remaining on the lead lap, we'll just bring this home now.
Yeah, well, what I can say is that Cameron Frederick posted the fastest lap of the race on the last lap at 2 minutes 0.6. A remarkable performance by Cameron Frederick today, despite the error in the closing stages. But he's arguably been the driver of the day.
Yeah, I would fully agree with that. Frederick, for me, is the driver of the day. We can't look past Bradley Lovins. Was under pressure the whole time from Alfie Nichols. In the end, he couldn't quite get past and was forced into making a mistake while pushing to try and get past. Meanwhile, Joey Maines finishes the race. And we'll wait for everyone to cross the line for us to get up the result. But, yeah, I would agree, Tom. My driver of the day, just as I assume yours is as well, is Cameron Frederick.
Yeah, that was a good performance by him, and well done to Jerry Maines on winning the AM class right at the end, despite that mistake at Lesmo Corner. But he's finished a lap ahead of his nearest rival in the class to take a comfortable win there. And well done to Cameron Frederick. I will mention him for taking the Pro-Am win but it felt like he achieved more than that. He was sensational today, battling it out with the pro drivers as well. It could even raise the debate whether he's in the right class or not, given the performance he's had. But considering it's been a wet race today, it's formed some form of equaliser for the drivers. So running down on the race result, Bradley Lovins taking victory ahead of Josh Herring, with Alfie Nichols in third place and Micah Rogers in fourth. Mitchell Bowen was fifth ahead of Cameron Frederick, who takes the honours in the Pro-Am class. Bradley Tidwell was P7 ahead of Michael Dion, with David Van Roy in ninth place. Adam Hansen completes the Pro-Am podium in 10th position overall. Bariaka in 11th place, and it's Purser. Quinton Price, Jerry Mains, who wins in the AM class ahead of Michael Champlin, and JT Sawyer second in the AMs in 16th overall. Dan Svorak and Brian Dukovsky in P18 as well. In 19th position will be Elliott ahead of Rick Modric, who recovered to 20th. Pocock was 21st ahead of Heath Ollinger. And then we've got Cody Bonte, Bazil, Gary Spencer, Brennan, Curtis Matthews, Clyde Comfort, and Risley, who made it to the end. Sublevada also made it to the end. I think it was a couple of laps down on the race winner. Jason Everson stopped out just before the end. Panel Hanley also out. Dan-Marie also stopped. Nick Marshall, Al Gray, Cole Modric, Ryan Byers, Philip de la Cruz, who were lost early on despite running towards the top end of the field. Jeremy Cheney is also another big driver who we also lost at the beginning of the race. He could have got a podium out of it today. Sean Riley out at the beginning, with Jonathan Williams, Dustin Matney, and Scott Carlson not even taking the start. Well, before we talk to some drivers, Dan, that was quite some race with plenty of action throughout the field. How could you sum that race up?
Well, I think this race had just about everything. It had drama at the front with the spin of Alfie Nichols, a stunning drive by Bradley Lovins, keeping that car on track for 55 minutes in what was very tricky conditions. It had almost, in my opinion, a hero with Cameron Frederick, almost able to finish ahead of Mikey Rogers in P4 in the end with a mistake in the dying stages. It's a P6, but still the Pro-Am victory. And Joey Mains taking a 14th place overall, stayed on the lead lap and taking the AM victory. All in all, I would say that's a pretty good first wet race.
Yeah, it was a very good wet race as well, and we'll hope to speak to some drivers. We'll begin with the AM class in a moment, because Joey Mains, who started 36th on the grid, made his way up into 14th position, and we'll most certainly want to have a word with him as he joins us in the commentary booth now. Jerry, a fantastic race from your perspective. You left it late to get the job done to take the AM win, but it was all worth the wait. How do you sum up that race from your perspective?
Pretty challenging at first. When you're in the back, I mean, I had poor qualifying, which I didn't expect to do well, but starting in the back there at the start was pretty tough. Couldn't see anything. Just had to be super slow around every single corner because everyone else is braking in front for the people in front of them. And then after everyone started strung out, and I started to figure out where I was getting advantages on other cars, and started taking that little advantage I had. And then once the pit cycle started, and then I figured, okay, if I can run a little longer and get where maybe a little open track, I could come out ahead of all the other AMs. And then sure enough, me and JT, we pitted the same lap, and he came out in front of me. I didn't know he was the one I was going to end up trying to race for the AM win. He beat me out of the pits, and him and I had a good race with one another, and he ended up, I don't know if I forced him into a mistake or he just broke too late going into the chicane. And yeah, it was challenging. The rain was different. I mean, the road course alone is different for me, and the range it's a whole nother aspect. So I should have practiced more, but came out on top.
And you talked about the rain there. It was a very tricky race for all the drivers there. A lot of mistakes were happening. But you seem to have coped with the conditions fine all the way through practice, through qualifying, and the race itself. Me and Dan were discussing about the white line at the pit entry, which was catching some of the drivers out. How soon was it before you discovered where the grip was in those conditions in these cars?
Where's the grip? I'm still trying to look for it. You see me struggling on that last lap. So, no, I mean, it's more of just if you can get the advantage coming, like there's just like some people break a little early and then maybe then get a drive off. Like I know I couldn't tell you what turn it is, but it's after the first chicane. You come into the next one, and if you hit the left curb just right, it seemed like everyone else was going around it, and you could get, I feel like, good enough speed coming off of the right hander, and then you should be able to set up a pass going into that next right. Other than that, I didn't have any other like spots on the track where I thought I was better than anyone where I was, but other than that one spot, everyone else was outbreaking me in the first chicane, and I wasn't getting very fast in the last turn either.
Yeah. And whilst we had one wet race, we've got Fuji next, which is pretty synonymous with having wet races over there. Do you fancy more rain when the championship heads there?
Well, right now we're trying to practice for Fuji for the endurance race, so I'm pretty slow with no rain, so I can only imagine what that track's gonna be like with rain. I heard it could just be soaking puddles in corners, so can't wait for that. So gonna have to practice up with a little rain condition and hopefully get another AM win.
Yeah. And another AM win it is for you today. Anyone you want to shout out before we let you go, Joey?
Yep, I'd like to shout out my wife and my beautiful kids. They give me the time in the morning to do this, which is great. Shout out to you boys in the broadcast and every admin for our league, and yeah, appreciate it.
Yeah, I'm sure the family have enjoyed seeing you take victory today as well, Joey. I'll let you get off and enjoy the rest of your day with your family, and well done on another AM win here at Monza.
Thanks, boys. Have a good one.
Excellent. Thank you very much, Joey, and well done today.
Thank you.
So that was Joey Mains taking victory in the AM class. We'll bring in the third place driver in the Pro class today. That is Alfie Nichols, who set some blistering pace since the spin at the Parabolica was sitting behind Bradley Lovins. Alfie, a decent race for you despite the spin you had at the Parabolica, but I suppose the fact that you were in clear air presented a different challenge for you. Did you think that you had the pace to win today?
Yeah, I mean, after the spin, it was just playing catch up, trying to catch back up to them leaders, and just never managed to get it in the end. I think, the track was drying, so it was always getting faster, and everyone else was finding pace, and we just didn't have the legs on them.
Yeah. And, you had the side-by-side action with Lovins as well, which was good to see. You were getting the gap down to Josh Herring as well in the closing stages. And how do you sum up your season so far? Because I don't know how many times you've competed in this particular championship, but how are you faring with these machines?
Yeah, well, this is the first race for me and a couple of guys that are racing under 4X. So it went well. First event, podiums. Only other thing we can hope for is a win, but we should hopefully present a bit of a challenge to some of the guys at the top in the rest of the season.
Yeah, we were just talking to Joey Mains as well about the conditions day at Monza, which you don't think about wet conditions as much as we do with other circuits. But just from your eyes, did you enjoy the conditions today, or would you wish that it were dry conditions?
Yeah, I mean, it's a different challenge. When it's wet, anything can happen. And we have the pace on the dry in practice. And in the wet, I think we were still up there, but then Porsches are so quick in the wet. And I felt if in the dry, probably would have had a much better chance at keeping that lead. But it's a different challenge, Turn one you couldn't see anything at turn one on the first couple of laps with the spray. So it's just trying to keep in the middle of the track, just try and use any reference you can.
We've got Fuji next on the calendar in a week's time. Do you think you'll have a better chance there compared to Monza?
if it's dry, should be pretty good up there. I know the Porsche is pretty good at Fuji as well, but we should have a better chance in the dry against them.
Excellent. Anyone you want to shout out to, Alfie, before we let you go?
Well, I think I've got to give my other Forex driver, Mikey Rogers, a little shout out here, running behind me at the end in P4, and also Jason Iverson, who couldn't finish the race with us, but he was a good support about it.
Excellent. Thank you very much. It's very nice for you to mention them on. I'll let you go, Alfie. Well done on your podium today in the pro class, and hope for better next time out in Fuji in 7 days' time.
Yeah, cheers, guys.
No problem, Alfie. Thank you very much. From P3 to P2, Josh Herrin, who has had a very clean race, it has to be said, not making too many mistakes over the course of those 55 minutes of racing. From your perspective, you've had to get by some drivers in the early stages. We obviously lost Jeremy Cheney and we lost Philip de la Cruz in the early stages, but you kept on going and made it to P2 in the end.
Yeah, it was a good run. I think I would have been able to keep up with Brad if I didn't have to get around De La Cruz and Cheney in the beginning. I think Cheney ended up spinning out. De La Cruz I passed when he got a bad exit. But other than that, it was just keep it clean, don't spin the car, and finish somewhere on the podium, hopefully. Worked out.
It was a super race as well, in wet conditions as well at Monza. How tricky was it for you? Because me and Dan were discussing about how the braking and stopping distances were going to be changing lap by lap by lap. How do you assess those conditions and understanding where the grip is and when to brake and when to turn in?
Well, I think in practice, you just back it up a little bit and try it and hope you don't crash. In the race, it changes lap by lap, it seems like, especially here at Monza. The front straight's raining, the back straight's almost like it's drying out. You just got to go with what you think's going to work. And if you're too early, lift off the brake for a second and lose a little bit of time. But you never want to be too late because you can't make up for that.
Yeah, we've got other circuits to come to before the year is out. We've got Fuji next. We've also got Hockenheim, Canadian Motorsport Park, I think it is. Then we've got Montreal, and we've got Sebring, which I think is the last round of the season before Christmas. Any of those circuits you feel you have a best chance of going for victory?
I would say Sebring. I love Sebring. I'm from Florida, where the track's at. Ran there a bunch of times, but I'm not super fast there. But I think that one's going to be at night, and it should be very interesting. A long 90-minute race. Hopefully some strategy can play out and I can make it work and pull out another win there. Haven't won in a while, but P2 is good.
Yeah. Talking which of your finished position, you had Alfie Nichols breathing you down lap by lap by lap. He was setting purples pretty much every other lap, really. He was getting the gap down all the time. Did you know that he was getting the gap down and you were able to manage it all along?
From the time I passed him when he spun, him and Brad were side by side in the last corner. I saw him on the side of the road and I was like, there's no way he'll be able to catch up. And then I just saw it get closer and closer every lap. Luckily at the end, I think I got around a car or two that held him up and I got around him easy. Or otherwise he would have been a lot closer.
Yeah. Well, is there anyone you want to shout out to, Josh, before we let you go?
Yeah, last time since I was on the podium, my girlfriend turned into my fiance, so big congratulations to her marrying the most awesome race car driver in the world.
Well, I have to say that is a really touching moment there, and congratulations on the upcoming marriage that is going to be taking place for you. And I do wish you and your fiance a very, very good future.
Awesome. Thanks, guys. I appreciate it.
No problem, Josh. Thank you very much, and have a really, really good day.
All right. Thank you.
Excellent. And last but not least, we'll speak to today's race winner. That is Bradley Lovins, who started from pole to the race win. And some of that race for you there, Brad, because even though it was only like 4 seconds at the flag that you won, but it seemed like you were able to hold on despite the pressure you were put under by Alfie Nichols in the first half of the race.
Oh, yeah, man. Well, I actually messed up with the session. I set it where normally we're 17x and then a drive-through after. I had it backwards where 17 was a DQ and 5 was a drive-through. So I was trying to make some guys admin so they can clear blacks and such. So the first 2 laps was kind of a wash for me. And I cut through that second chicane once or twice. And finally had a race with Alfie after that, and I felt like him and my pace was fairly similar. I think it would have been a good race if he didn't catch that outside curb on the last turn, maybe lap 4, trying to pass. But yeah, the pressure, man. Once I got about 5 seconds on P2 behind me, I was kind of just cruising. If they got to 3 seconds, I would push a little bit more and make it back to 5. So I was kind of just modulating my pace, trying to just stay safe.
Given the nature of the circuit of Monza, you had to overcome some back markers along the way. How tricky is it in these conditions around the circuit like Monza is it to get by back markers? Because it got to a point where you were losing lap time, being stuck in traffic, and you had to sort of decide when it was best for you to be pitting, because we noticed some drivers further down the field were pitting in sooner before you did. And by the time you got behind back markers, that kind of made your own mind up when you needed to pit in.
I should have pitted a lap early. I had one more lap on the line, and I went through and I hit a wall of back markers. I think I had 6 seconds on Josh. He pitted before me. I came out of the pits, and I think he was 2.8 seconds. So, I definitely got held up a little bit. Back markers really wasn't that big of a deal. I mean, if I hit them, everyone hits them, so it kind of evens out. But when it comes to like a pit strategy like that, it definitely, upper hand if I would have pitted a lap early for sure.
And we've got Fuji next on the calendar. What are you feeling for that? And also the other circuits, we've got Hockenheim, Canadian Motorsport, Montreal, and Sebring. Where do you think are your best circuits?
Fuji's probably not my best, but we're doing the endurance race there next week, so that's kind of why I put 2 and 2 together, where the guys can do the endurance race Friday and Saturday, and then do Fuji Sunday. So it should be pretty tight racing all the way down the board. I think probably Hockenheim's probably going to be a fairly good track for me. I think it's pretty technical, easy to get an off track. I think a lot of guys are going to struggle there, and I'm really looking forward to that. And maybe say Montreal. I think that's a fun track too. I think Montreal showed maybe some wetness on the forecast, so it'll be another wet race.
Yeah. And is there anyone you want to shout out to, Bradley, before we let you go?
Oh yeah, man. You guys, Dan, nice to have you, buddy. I haven't seen you before, so good to have you. I can't wait to watch the broadcast. Our sponsors, Butt Kicker, Sim Motion, Synco PCs, Ron Service. He tuned my Porsche up again last night. I ran my throwback livery from last season and got the win with it. So yeah, it's a nice drive. I got 3 wins so far, and all of them's been a wet track. So, if it's wet, baby, I'm in there. That's about all I can say.
Yeah. Well, Bradley, very, very well done today on your race win at Monza. I'm sure you've taken victories before within OGRL, so I'm sure you know what it feels like to win. And we hope to see you again next week and have a really, really good weekend.
Yeah, man, I'm looking forward to it. I think after this race, it's only 1 point in between me and Josh. We came into here tied, so it's going to be a tight battle all the way to the end, another 11 races. So appreciate you guys. I'll see you later.
Excellent. Thank you very much, Brad, and we'll speak to you again soon.
Yeah, man.
So, Dan, that was a brilliant race. We had a wet race at Monza for once, and I think if that's anything to go by, we hope that Fuji will put on as good of a show as that.
Yeah, Fuji prone to some rain usually in between the mountains, so I'm looking forward to that one for sure. But yeah, this was it from Monza, and well, what a spectacle it was.
It was, and I'm sure as well. If you have enjoyed that, do make sure you like and subscribe to the JP Broadcasting YouTube channel, and you can keep up to date with all the action that's been broadcast on the channel, with all the events that are happening, including OGRL. And we've had the charity event as well over the last 24 hours, which had been taking place, and I think it's still going on, I think, as far as we speak, if you are watching this live. But there are also many other events you can also tune in, including the UK Sim Races, MX5s on Tuesday evenings. There's the IGP Super Formula Lights that's happening this evening as well, which I'll be in the commentary booth with James Parfitt later on as well. Dan, thank you very much for joining me as well. It's good to have you in company and being involved in the broadcasting side of things as well. So very well done with the job that you've done there. It's time to end it there. Thank you very much for watching, and we'll do it all again in 7 days' time at the Fuji Speedway James will be in the country booth alongside me, I believe. More to come in the week. I'm Tom Cairns, he's Dan, and we'll speak to you again soon when the Coffee Cup series in the OGRL returns.
Jungle.